Hello everyone, Burb here. Today I'll be talking about pace chasers in the Gemini Cup. This video builds off of the Gemini Cup overview, which was meant to get you started with the Gemini Cup by going over a track overview, stat justifications, as well as parent building to get you started building a base for your UMAs. If you've never seen a role guide before from me, what I go over in these role guides are specific skills to buy, why to pick them, why they work, why they don't, etc., as well as where to find them on the cards, and then we go and talk about the notable pace chaser characters. The thing I'm changing up this time in the Gemini Cup, if you've been around a while, is I will not be going through every single character because we had the late surger video almost cross 1 hour, and I feel like I need to make these a little bit more reasonably timed. I will make a video that goes over how to build every single Oshi. However, I have categorized the characters in specific categories. Look at your Oshi's ultimate and you will find that they slot into one of these categories. And if they don't, feel free to put it in the comments and I will go and try to answer your question about them, okay? So give me some feedback on that. If you like that, let me know. If you don't like that, let me know as well. But I'm trying to go and make these guides a little bit more practical. Do not worry, they are still very, very comprehensive, and the additional time is allowing me to go over skills in more details and why they work, which I think is much more useful in your process of learning. So without further ado, let's talk about pace chasers. Are pace chasers good? I think they are very good. Now, I can't say they're going to dominate the meta for a very specific reason. The good things about pace chasers is that they have a very reliable position-based acceleration. If they hit 3rd or 4th place and those are available to them, Nishino Flower Ultimate is a perfect proc. So that is 0.2 right out of the gate. Also, you have many secondary acceleration options that I will go over to hit the 0.4 threshold, and then they also have a moderate late race speed. Right? So they have the second worst late race speed. They're better than frontrunners. They're worse than backliners. But because of the consistent acceleration, that usually is enough to get to the end in 1st place. Also, their unique speed skill, which is Speed Star, as well as a lot of other inherits like Shadow Break for Narita Bryan, speed carry over quite easily as well. So they have a lot of good things going for them. The biggest problem with them is that a triple front lobby or multiple front runners from multiple players, you can just get locked out of 3rd and 4th place, and then you are slightly worse than the backliners at that point because the backliners at least have better gambling accelerations than you do. However, I think you're going to find there's going to be a lot of pace chasers, and even then you may be able to go and get past some of the straggling front runners. So there's ways to mitigate with this. The biggest thing you're going to need is really to build a ton of mid-race as per usual, because this mitigates you from getting boxed out in the front runner position, as well as keeping you in front of the backliners to maintain your position. That's the other thing, like I said, if a backliner hits at any point for some reason, if they just hit 0.8 excel plus a ton of late race speed, a end closer will probably just win at that point. There's no two ways about it. Also, the pace chaser position I think will be very popular and will also be very cluttered. There's positives to this with things like Nimble Navigator, and then there's negatives to this of being blocked in the mid race because, well, it's not nice to have your speed star completely blocked by the person in front of you. There's also many pitfalls because the pace chaser skills are usually pretty track specific, so some of these do not work, so make sure not to pick them. We will highlight the ones that do not work, and also the guts build will probably be a primary build, an option, and those guts cards do not really have many pace chaser skills attached to them. Those are the pros and cons for pace chasers. The stat requirements as a reminder, our stat suggestions, things to aim for. If you're running the guts build, you probably want to get like 1,000 power, 1,000 wit, 901 guts. If you don't reach there, you're perfectly fine. Do not worry. I've hit a couple 800, 901s. I've hit a 1100, 901. Like the guts build has so high of variance that eventually you will probably hit this. Now, will you hit this with mile S? Probably not. Statistically so, if you run enough runs, yes. But the guts build is very volatile and it's not for the faint-hearted. The speed power wit alternative, like I said, you can go 601, 601. Don't force the stamina. It is a threshold, but it's only 2.5%. What I suggest if you're newer at the guts build is go and try to make an ace with 222 speed guts wit. Build your baseline. I find this consistently hits top speed and top power with some decent wit, and you don't necessarily have 901 guts, which is perfectly fine. You'll have around 700 guts that'll be serviceable enough to get through the CM, and then you can try to high roll with the guts build. Let's talk about the Pace Chaser specific inherits, okay? The biggest one that you pretty much need is Budding Blossom. If you're going for 3rd or 4th place because that position is available to you as a Pace Chaser, you want this Nishino Flower Ultimate for, at minimum, the 0.2. It's 3.3 lengths. It's more than every other acceleration that you have because it is a corner, technically, start of late race skill. The other inherits that are decent, I say decent, not good, is Give Mummy a Hug is probably the best one out of them because Banshin's probably the easiest condition to meet. If you are a very high roll gambler, you can do I Never Goof Up from Meisho Doto because it only procs at that little bit on the corner. Dancing in the Leaves is block sight continue time, so it is unreliable and you need a late proc. Flashy Landings the same way, block sight continue time, and you need to late proc as well. And Look at Kern, you need to be late procking as well. So these 4 are just there. If you have parents for them, you may pick them up at high hit frequency. Possibly these 2 are the ones you're getting. Now, what I wanted to talk about this one, I usually try to incorporate some sort of theory into this, is this concept of acceleration stacking. Accelerations have diminishing returns, especially when the second acceleration is delayed. Super Creek Ultimate, Mummy Ultimate, Give Mummy a Hug is a straight skill, so it will be delayed. Now, if you hit Nishino Flower Ultimate, which you should be hitting because this is 4th or better, and this is 4th or 3rd, your effectiveness goes down from 1.71 lengths to 1.29 lengths. So you lose about 35 to 40% of the, this is about 35% of the ultimate's effectiveness because you've already hit 0.2. You hit 0.4 again, and all of a sudden at 0.4, you're down to 0.85 lengths from 1.29. So you lose another 35%, and this puts it right on line with a speed carryover skill like just regular white corner adept. So basically, if you hit 0.2, it's the equivalent of a gold skill. If you hit 0.4, it's like the equivalent of a speed carryover white skill. So it's probably worth it to take if you're planning on getting a 0.4. After 0.4, I find it generally is unnecessary if you have 2 consistent ways of getting 0.2, okay? Also, the reason why I bring this up is Super Creek because she is basically locked into a medium long track career is going to have worse affinity than your other parents, and Curran-chan, which is the Look at Curran Ultimate, has just bad base affinity with a lot of people. It's like the Marzensky problem. So what's going to happen is that if you run these ones as your secondary excel, you may lose out on a lot of other white skills like Playtime's Over and Slipstream that would be useful as well, that could give you a similar amount of lengths. So my personal suggestion is getting one of the standard secondary accelerations, specifically the white versions. No Stopping Me and Neck and Neck both give an incredible amount of lengths if they instant proc. This being a short track also generally means that Neck and Neck is not the worst thing in the world. Now, I don't think you need to seek these out in the golds because these generally, the white versions are about 55% of the gold skill themselves. And I think because these are secondary accelerations behind your Nishino Flower Ultimate, you should consider that because you're losing 35% of these anyways, the difference between them isn't necessarily as much as it actually is out to be. It's a 3-length advantage. It goes down to a 2-length advantage, but you can also spend stuff on other accelerations to make it more consistent rather than high rolling every single time. So I would suggest go for white head on, go for white nimble navigator. If you get Ig Power or Ig Guts, perhaps grab one of those. Don't try to over excel more than like 0.6 or 0.8, I don't think. Grab your mid race. I think it'll make you hit that 3rd and 4th place better. Notably, also, head-on is close to a 2 out of 3 in terms of effectiveness over a white skill because it is, it's 125 meters where you're above that white skill threshold over that series of the late race, but not the final spurt. And Nimble Navigator, of course, is unreliable, but it when it procs, it's very good because it's after the final corner and you are selecting your lane. So if you don't choose one of the innermost rails, or at least like rail 1, 2, 3, you're going to wide swing, and then you're not going to proc Nimble Navigator. You have some more gamble acceleration options that are a little bit less of a reliable ability as these three, but these gamble accelerations, they have their uses. Notably, the one I would, if you had to pick one of these, it probably would be Corner Con, I would say, because of just how potent it is. So corner acceleration, even as is still 4-length advantage when it does hit. It is technically a 1 in 6. But when it hits very hard, and it can save you because it's at any point, it doesn't have any positional base acceleration. You can consider Radiant Star. The difference is that corner acceleration, when you get hints on it, is super cheap. When Radiant Star has hints on it, it's still like 350 skill points. So Radiant Star is super expensive, and you don't really get anything from the recovery itself, so it's just an inefficient skill. Rushing Gale is just a 1 out of 10. I don't think you take this gamble almost ever as well. So maybe corner acceleration white, but really try to get these ones, and especially your Budding Blossom. So I think that's most of the accelerations. You have overshoot accelerations. I don't think first place is really going to be available to you, but you do have ECP Alt, Victoria Porplancha, and Resplendent Red Ace from Daiwa Scarlet. Those are for first and second place. There's a lot of accelerations that don't really work in the CM. Step on the gas is a change order 1 time. So if you pass anybody at any point in the race, basically meaning that you're not like the only pace chaser, which there will be multiple pace chasers, do not worry. It will happen very early on in the race. It will not be in the acceleration zone. Keep It Real is 4th or worse. Same with Condor's Fury. You probably shouldn't be 4th or worse, and even then you should be stacking your final corner skills. So both of these are Is Overtake, which means that the Is Overtake condition probably will happen in the dead zone before you get carryover into the acceleration, okay? Tactical Tweak is almost always a bad choice because even if you actually satisfy the condition, it's still a 1 out of 10. And Redshift and Shooting for Victory. Redshift, you are not going to pass into 5th. You will be in 5th or better in the situations where you're winning, so it will proc way too early. Same with Shooting for Victory. I don't think you're going to late proc into 4th place, okay? Determined Descent, this is not a downhill map, so do not grab Determined Descent as well. People are talking about Shrewd Step a lot. I understand the sentiment with it. Take it at your own risk, because this CM is about, there's a very long early race, there's a very small mid race, and then there's a very long late race, comparatively for a mile. You could get PDM'd. What I will say with Shrewd Step is it will give you lengths when the front runner or the leader is very good. You could be that front runner. If you don't get PDM'd from the Shrewd Step, you get about 3/4 of a length, which is technically more efficient than the white speed skill. Okay, Groundwork is probably better because it procs instantly and more reliably. Shrewd Step requires you to be in one of the outer posts. Essentially, it's a little bit more than the outer post, but take these at your own risk. I will say, if you take these, grab some straight skills so that you can PDM break in the case you get re-PDM'd early, and then take probably Professor Curvature so that you can PDM. You can break the PDM if you PDM late. So you need some corner and straight skills to be accessible in that early race if you're taking these acceleration skills. Your bread and butter of the CM is going to be final corner skills and beyond skills, I guess. So final corner skills, the big one, Speed Star. If you can get Speed Star or Prepared to Pass, I would grab it because it is a very, very high chance comparatively to other skills for speed carryover. It's about a 1 in 3 to a 1 in 4. It's on Fine Motion. It's on a very good wet card. This probably will be your borrow if you do not own it. And you don't need Narita Top Road or something to get your stats. Shadow Break is probably your best inherit in terms of a grandparent, or your other side besides Nishino Flower for the same reason. It's basically a 50-50 at this point. Yes, it's a pass, but generally what's going to happen is you're going to proc something like Speed Star, you're going to pass somebody after it with Shadow Break, and you're going to get a massive amount of speed carryover at that point. Same thing with Ravissant, which is Fuji Kaseki. When QED, a bunch of these 0.15s work as well, and you know what you're doing with Nothing Venture. These final corner skills and beyonds, or final corner and beyond skills, a lot of them are passes or passings or is overtakes, stuff like that, and you generally want those to slightly late proc, and how you do that is because you combine them with skills that we're going to talk about later. Your corner skills. Your corner skills can proc late on the corner, or they can proc early. If they proc early, these corner skills, they can basically PDM break you from the end of the position keep through to the mid race. So it covers your bases if you get a late PDM and you got like a really nice pace up early. And if they decide to proc late, then they can speed carry over. They can also go and trigger these passing conditions because they give you additional speed to pass people. That is why Professor of Curvature is still very strong. Pace Chaser Corners is very strong. Double circling these is very good. Remember, they're 0.1 and not an additional 0.15. Your mid-race conditional skills are what I would take after that, because your mid-race conditional skills are just very good and very efficient. Tail held high, play times over, strip stream, and it's on. That's the passing combo that you will see. You can even combine stuff like it's on if you haven't passed anybody yet, and you shadow break it's on. It's a massive amount of speed carryover into the late race. TDDC also is just a generic mid-race skill for pace chasers because you will be hopefully in the front 25% unless there's just a ridiculous runaway that's ridiculously built. I don't think that will happen. Shifting gears or changing gears on certain characters is just a general random point mid-race speed skill. That's very good. And then you have Big Sisterly, Mile Maven, and Umamusume for your early race skills. Umamusume does not PDM break guaranteed. What it does do is it does give you a long duration skill that can break you later, but it's not guaranteed at all. Big Sisterly is overtake after 5 seconds, which should happen in the early to mid race as well. So hypothetically, you could Mile Maven into Big Sisterly into Umamusume, and you're just immune to PDM the entirety of the early race. But that probably will not happen, honestly. But they are all still good skills. They give you good amounts of lengths. You can see, give you various amounts, but Umamusume is super cheap for a 0.8, etc., etc. Your straight skills are less important than your corners, in my opinion. Reason being is that a couple things. First of all, they can high roll at the start and they can be an instant proc PDM break. Most likely that's not going to happen. It may happen once or twice in your 80 runs, but it'll be pretty decent. Now, the two problems with straight skills are, one, it's not shown here, but there is a no zone right before that corner where you're trying to go towards the inner rail. That is my understanding that I've been told of. I am not 100% certain that's how it works, but there's basically a time where it's very hard to pass people. If you're very close to that person in front of you and a straight skill procs, you may lose the straight skill, and the simulator doesn't really take that into account. The other thing is that there's this massive dead zone. Now, the more acceleration you hit, the more that you're going to have a value in the late race for this. So basically, it's going to be eaten by the accel zone if it procs very early on this final straight. So these straight skills probably should be single circled. You can double circle, but they're low priority because when they PDM break, they generally get about the same value as they would be when they're double circled. Okay, so you get a little bit higher, like 0.6, but most of the value for PDMing is the fact that you haven't pace down moded, right? So these straightaway skills are used to PDM break early into hopefully a Professor of Curvature, and then also you do need some late race, so you will need some straight skills, so grab the cheap ones. Your late race skills, generally anything with 200 meter marks is perfectly fine. 300 meter marks if you hit your excel is also perfectly fine. The quintessential late race speed skill is Triumph Impulse and Home Stretch Haste or Embody in Mind. All three of these work just fine. Embody in Mind, of course, can be clipped by the end of the race as per usual. The 400 mark and starter final straight skills are both probably shouldn't even be taken. Bark Roll of Blessings you probably should not take whatsoever. There's like absolutely no way that you're getting to max speed by the 400 mark. Right? So even at 0.4 acceleration, which means you've hit Nishina Flower ultimate and your backup ultimate, and I even put it on perfect timing, you're not even close to your max speed at that point. It's completely eaten up by the acceleration zone because your target speed is increased here, and it doesn't matter because you're not at target speed. I just did this as an example for a final straight skill, but stuff like Aishin Flash Ult, which happens on the final straight immediately on the final straight, it's completely eaten as well. And Tail Step, you do need a late proc, and you're just sort of gambling, and I don't see a reason to grab inherited skills from parents when they're more expensive than just basic skills that worked before. So they are lower priority than pretty much everything else than we have talked about. Let's talk about cards, okay? Your two Pace Chaser cards you're going to be looking at are mostly Fine Motion and then possibly Daiwa Scarlet Power. It's mostly Fine Motion, and then some of the cards we're going to be talking about, because Prepared to Pass or Speed Star, they're both incredible. Speed Star is a very good skill. It's one of the few times where it's actually worth all the skill points that it gives it. She also comes with Nimble Nav and Outer Post Proficiency, which are two good skills. The thing is with Daiwa Scarlet Power is you probably don't need neck and neck. You're probably also not running a Speed Power Whip build if you are borrowing this card, because there are better stat stick cards for those not running that Guts build, right? Pace Chaser Corners, Prepared to Pass, Competitive Spirits on it, but you can just sort of get better value from your speed cards and power cards for the speed build, as well as your Guts cards, which we'll talk about. Narita Top Road Firm Course Menace is still a very, very good late race speed skill in effect, because Firm Course Menace is plus 60 speed and plus 60 power, which will help you with the Massive Excel Zone, as well as the the late race section of the race. Shinko Windy is one of the better free-to-play cards, just because it just gives you Shifting Gears and Unyielding Spirits just in kit, which are two really great mid-race white skills, and it's a 10% race bonus card. Kidiston Black probably is going to be your bread and butter for like 90% of players, because they didn't pull on Narita Top Road, and Professive Curvature is slightly behind Firm Course Menace. However, it does have the ability to speed carry over. I don't really see how you're going to be able to fit a Nishino Flower speed or a Tokai Teo speed, because I think the people who have these cards will probably be running the Guts build, which will be running solo speed. I'm going to grab a drink of water and we'll continue. So, like I said before, the problem with the Guts cards is they don't really give any Pace Chaser skills. So you just really have the two basic ones of Yukino Bijin Guts, which gives you PTO, which is most likely what you're grabbing, or possibly Gambling for Corner Connoisseur if you get PTO from your parents. And then Ines Fusion gives you Playtimes Over and Slipstream. I know there's a couple more Guts cards, but they're really more just stat sticks at that point. So you're probably running Aurora for the stats, etc., etc. Let's talk about the characters. Your borrow priority is probably stuff like you're probably borrowing Fine Motion. If you can't hit stats, you're borrowing Narita Top Road. Your borrow priority probably is Fine Motion into Kidiston Black into Narita Top Road, one or the other, these three. And if you have all three of these and you're running a Speed Power Whip build, you're running Yayano Mateki at that point. Otherwise, if you're running a Guts build, you're picking the best Guts card available to you at that point, which probably would be Ines Fusion at this point. Let's talk about characters. Okay, sorry about that. I forgot to put that slide in. So again, we're going and doing a cross section. So if your Oshi's not on here, it probably fits into one of these categories. The two strongest characters probably are one of these first couple categories, but the bonus acceleration or leaking acceleration 2 characters are the parents that you are running most likely, which is Nishino Flower is probably the strongest if she decides to hit. Now, she comes with Beeline Burst, which is a straight skill, but Budding Blossom, if it does hit, it's 0.4 on its own. So you just go and you build mid-race on her. You hope that third place is available to her. If she hits 0.4, great. You probably win at that point if you have properly built your late race, right? That is all you need on Nishino Flower. She comes with speed and power bonus for the Guts build as well. The other character that's incredibly strong is Taiki Shuttle. If third and fourth place is available to her, she has enough mid-race to get into those positions. So if it's not 6th front runner, she is a speed wit character that has Mile Maven and Changing Gears, 2 golds of the 2 best mid-race mile skills in the game, as well as mile straightaways and straightaway depth. So you have your mid-race, you have a speed wit build, you have Shooting for Victory, and the funny thing about this character is that if people try to go and bring a bunch of front runners, well, that sometimes just means you pass into 4th position late, which means Taiki Shuttle now gets an ultimate that doesn't just leak into the acceleration zone. It now is basically a perfect proc excel at that point. So now it doesn't proc on the straight, right? But if you do pass a little bit late, it's just even more value. So you just put Nishino Flower ultimate on her, and you just use all of her mid-race to do what you can there. You may throw a head-on on her, but that's about it. Taiki Shuttle kind of just builds herself, honestly, and she may be the strongest pace chaser, honestly, because of just how much mid-race is built into the kit. The other type of characters that are incredibly good in the pace chaser position are final corner carryover skills. These characters win by using their ultimate to speed carry over and then hitting an Nishino 0.2, plus possibly a good head-on proc. Fujikaseki Ballroom is probably one of the better ones of it, just because speed, power, wit growth is really good with Speedstar in kit and Head-On in kit. So you have your backup Excel, you put Nishina Flower Ultimate as her primary Excel, and then you use Shrewd Step to get that early advantage, and you put as much mid-race as possible, with Ravissant being a pass on the final corner in the front half of the pack. Maybe fourth or better, I'm pretty sure. And then when that happens, you will speed carry over into a Nishina Flower Ultimate because you're probably in third place because you passed into it, and then you hopefully win at that point. Biwa Hayahide, I'm doing this because a lot of people are running B and W for this. Win QED is basically the same thing, she just doesn't give as much. Now you just need to pass somebody towards the front on the final corner or later. Narita Bryan is the same way. Shadow Break is just very strong with being 0.45 like Ravissant is. It's the same exact thing. She unfortunately fortunately has very, very good late race, so you have to throw the mid race on her, whereas Fujikaseki, it was the late race. OG Air Groove is sort of a free-to-play version of it. Blazing Pride is a pass skill, like I said. She doesn't really come with anything besides home stretch haste, but she has very good speed and power bonus. Fine Motion is a challenge instead of a pass, and Sakura Bakashino is one of the times where you can run Sakura Bakashino if you can get past her affinities, is a speed wit stat, and remember, her ultimate is still block side continue time, just like Fine Motion's too. So all these characters are quite viable, and they do sort of the same thing in different ways. You also have a bunch of high roll characters, and I think you're going to see one in particular quite often. This one isn't it. Curran-chan, I think, is very strong for some reason. She doesn't really give too much, but she has speed and power growth, which is going to be incredible in the Guts build. It says, well, around halfway, it's 45 to 65% of the race. And I believe it's an is overtake condition that can late proc into acceleration, but if not, it's just a mid-race speed skill with a bunch of mid-race on the character with Nishina Flower Ultimate in third place. So consider this character. Meisho Doto is the uber high roll gamble character because there's only about a 66 meter area where she can actually pass somebody, but if she does, it's 0.3 excel plus the 0.2 excel from Nishina Flower into 0.5 excel, and she comes with Speedstar. So what's going to happen is Speedstar is in kit, and hopefully that causes you to pass at the perfect time to hit Meisho Doto Ultimate. It's an incredibly gambly skill because it only has a 66 active time area. This is the character I think you're going to see a lot, and I know her stat bonuses are all over the place and not great, but if you're able to build this one, you may even build her speed, power, wit. Flashy Landing, if you do end up doing a challenge on that final corner or later, right, and it just slightly late procs, and because it's an accumulate time 2 for that, I think it will late proc. That combined with the no stopping me means you have possibly a 0.7 out of the gate even without Nishina Flower Ultimate. You may not even need full no stopping me, but that seems quite strong on its own. And also, if it decides to proc, you also get speed carryover for it. So MTG doesn't give you that much, but if you're able to build her, Flashy Landing is probably very strong in all the positions that you decide to run her. Flowery Maneuver also does practically the same thing, but it's only speed, no acceleration in the front part of the pack. Christmas Ogure, I want to put this because she's sort of unique. There isn't really a good trigger for her. I think the best way you might be able to do it is to gamble with Glittering Star, but you are spending a lot of skill points on recoveries for what is essentially a mid-race speed skill with a high roll chance of proccing in the acceleration zone. So Christmas Ogure I don't think will be too much of a problem, but she will certainly hit every once in a while. Gold City OG. I've included this character, and I don't normally include characters that are meant for other roles, but there's a specific reason I think that Gold City OG might be very good in the Pace Chaser position, is that in certain lobby compositions, she may stay in third position. And what's going to happen possibly is that if you have a proper Speedstar proc in which you are passed because someone else procced their Speedstar before you, and then you proc after, your is overtake position from fourth position is going to proc Gold City Ultimate late. Now, if you were to run her in the late surger position, what's probably going to happen is your is overtake condition is going to proc too early and you're not going to get any acceleration. In the pace chaser position, it can be kind of used as a pass protect build, because if you're in 4 through 6, you need to make up some ground, so hopefully that speed start causes it to trigger late, and it's sort of a way to survive when you're not in that 3rd position. If you're in 3rd or better, well, you're in 3rd or better, I guess. If you're in 2nd, it's too bad, but if you're in 3rd position, you're hitting Nishino Flower Ultimate. And also, this is a 6-second duration. You don't even have to proc it that late. You just have to have it delayed by a few seconds, and Keep It Real gives you something. So a little bit tough in the terms of the Guts build. You probably run Speed, Power, Wit with her. But I think in Pace Chaser, you might be able to semi-consistently late proc Keep It Real. The lobby game build characters I'm not going to talk about too much. You probably build them as front runners or force them into it. ECP, you do have to force into it, but basically you just throw as much mid-race as possible on these, and you pray that your 2nd place is available to them. A lot of characters have mid-race bonus ultimates. Some examples of it, we're going to start omitting some characters at this point. Biwa Haihide Christmas, for example, has presence from X, which will just basically proc at the 50% mark if it were ever to proc, because you have to be in the front half of the pack the whole time. She comes with a bunch of late race skills. Air Groove Wedding as well, Eternal Moments will most likely proc almost immediately after the 50% mark with a bunch of gambling accelerations, as well as Big Sisterly. This character comes with a lot of mid-race. Hichi Akabono, you try... I consider this just be basically a bonus if it decides to proc late from you having enough stamina. Just don't try to take too much stamina so it does actually proc, and then just use this as a mid-race speed skill. Late race speed skills that are safe, there are a bunch of characters that do so. Oguri Cap OG has Triumphant Pulse. That's the quintessential late race speed ultimate. 20% speed, 10% power as well for that. Corner Con for the additional gamble if you want, and Nimble Navigator as well. Sakura Chiona O is the same thing. The 300 meter mark is also safe, and she comes with Spring Spectacle, which is a good green, as well as very good with Speed Wit growth as well. Yainu Mateki comes with its on, which is a bunch of mid-race. Peerless Dance of Flowering Flames at the 300 meter mark or better, and usually will proc slightly late, but is also still safe if you hit your acceleration. Then there's characters that need slightly late procs, and this is where it gets a little troublesome. Measure of Arden, you do want a little bit of a late proc, but usually Banshin in the situations where you're winning when you're hitting it, it does end up procking a tiny bit late, and her growths are just that good that you may be worth running with the 0.45, and you don't really care about the stamina in this case. She comes with Pace Chaser corners and left-handed as well. OG Kaseki is the same thing, and you need someone following you for a little bit amount of time, so it does end up late procking slightly, and if it's not, I mean, the Fuji Kaseki ult's just good in general, but it's getting to the point where it's a little bit more risky. But this character comes with Big Sisterly, so it's perfectly fine. OG Teo, I talked about this in the inherited section. Sky High Teo Step and Certain Victory both sort of, they're wacky and they tend not to proc, but again, they can be eaten in the acceleration zone if they decide to proc early as well. This character does come with Shrewd Step in the OG version. Then you have characters that are completely eaten by the acceleration zone, like TM Opera O New Year, which happens at exactly the 400 meter mark. That is going to be eaten completely, so try to run the other one, I guess, it's better. You have characters with recovery ultimates. Those recoveries will probably not be useful this CM either. So, with that, I hope that character section was a lot quicker. Here's your checklist. Grab your speed. Max speed is practically required. Try to get at least like 1175. Get some decent power and decent wit. 601 guts for the threshold would be very, very nice. Get your positional basic cell with Nishino Flower, and grab your mid-race speed skills like Speed Star and Shadow Break. At that point, I think you have a chance. You might want to go and get a secondary excel at that point. Then grab your corner skills and your late race speed skills. Shrewd Step does exist. Take it at your own risk. I talked about that en masse when we talked about Shrewd Step. So the checklist is there. There's a lot of things to grab. Again, like I said, I think the threshold is trying to get just after your mid-race speed skill. At that point, it's just making it a little better. So this has been the Pace Chaser Guide. We got the front runner, late surge, and end closer ones to come. I'm going to be trying to do the same thing. There probably won't be as many characters. It'll probably be quicker than this one, but hey, last time the Pace Chaser Guide was like 48 minutes. Now it's 33 minutes, and I think this is a positive addition. I will be talking about the other Oshis in a future video. Do not worry. As a little bit of fun, if you noticed, you may have seen there were some Nishino flowers hidden throughout the presentation. I have the answer here in a second, but if you can guess how many kilobytes were hidden in this video. Don't count any Nishino flower that is a card or a character portrait. You're talking about this GIF in particular. All right, the answer, I think, was 11 of them. I may have lost one. So did you find them all? That was just a little funny thing I added at the end, so I hope you enjoyed it. So all that's left, memberships are available. Thank you to those who support it. It's never required, but for those in the Borb tier, I do shout out their names in the overview video, and I've been doing them in the rule guides as well this time. So thank you to all the members, but especially Kiku, Z, IRL, Sorcerer, Immobility, Mr. Merritt, Crest of Gautier, Lucifel, Oguri Cap Eats a Burger, Peter Van Sand 1054, Oscar Van Bruce, Mishya, and Sage. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the Pace Chaser guide. The late surger, end closer, and front runner guides will be out within the next week. Take care, everyone. Burb out.